Good afternoon. So today, one of our projects, we're going to be building the roll-around cart for the vacmaster. We haven't showed you the vacmaster yet. We'll do some videos on that once we get the cart. Sitting in the middle of the floor at the moment. It's quite heavy, somewhere around 80-90 pounds I think. We're building a cart out of oak plywood with an oak face frame, and it's going to have some shelves on it to put the different vacuum bags underneath, vacuum pump oil, the stuff you need to keep the vacmaster going. It's also going to have a couple sides that can be set on. We're going to use a French cleat system. We looked at hinges and things that would fold out to hold it up. We decided that because this is going to rarely get used outside of the actual, pantry location that it's in, the wings will only get put on like when we take it out in the kitchen to process 50 chickens or whatever the case may be. So we decided to use the French cleat system, thought that would just be a little easier. So we've started with, I've drawn this up in my Visio program. So we're going to get you set up so you can watch us on the table saw basically rip all this plywood to the right width, and we'll go ahead and get these pieces cut. Then we'll bring you back and let you watch us put it together. We're going to use a Craig pocket hole jig. So yeah, hold on while we get the table saw set up and we'll be right back. You'll notice that we still don't have an outfeed table, so we have to juggle the whole 8-foot piece and hold it on both sides. That'll be an upcoming video. We're excited to go get some decent plywood and start building some furniture for the woodworking shop. So let's get this plywood ripped and get building this project. Alright, so this is the very back of the cabinet. So it's going to have a handful of pocket screws in it. And we want the screws to be in the back towards the wall. So we're going to right back on here. And then we're just going to go ahead and put our pocket screws down each side so that we can put our sides together. We are going to put some in the top to hold the top on. And we'll put some in the top of the sides. And then the shelves will have the pocket screws in the shelf. So we'll go ahead and get going on that. not going to bother to glue these. We're not too worried about the shelves having that much weight on them. And these pocket hole screws seem to be pretty darn rugged. So we're going to go ahead and screw this in. We'll get the other two shelves in, and then we'll come back and show you how we're going to do the face frame. So we're going to cut our two styles for the face of this. And what I'm going to do, just to make my math really easy, because for some reason I seem to not be doing math well today, is I'm going to hold my style up there where I want it with just about 1/8 of an inch taller than the shelf. And you'll see I'm at 29.5. So I'm going to go cut two pieces of oak, 29.5. And that will make my two sides. We know our cabinet is 18 inches. We know that we have 1.5 inches of oak. So we're going to take 3 inches off for the side rails. Brings us down to 15 inches for the centerpiece. And we know that we want 1/4 inch on each side. So we're going to go 15.5. So in the past I would have cut a biscuit joint into each one of these and into my rails, and I would have glued and clamped it, let it set for 24 hours and come back. But because we have this fancy pocket hole jig, I think we're going to try to put this together with pocket holes. So the first thing we have to do is figure out our side rails. So I think the easy way to do that for me is to put my side rail up there where I want it, flush with the top. I'm going to make a mark on each shelf like that. So when I turn that over, I know this is my top. And this is the shelf would be on this side of that, on each one of those. Now we also know that when we put this together, we want to leave about 1/8 of an inch. So what we're going to do now is we're going to figure out which side we wanted this showing. And I think it's this side. So we're going to line that one up just like that. We're going to get our square, if we can find it. And we're going to just eyeball that 1/8 of an inch that we want. This will be how these go in, just like that. So now we have to decide if we're putting our pocket holes, I believe we're going to put them in our rails and screw into these. So we're going to set these aside, and we're going to pick what we call the money side of each one of these. So that will be the face. We'll put an experiment on scrap first. I think if we center it like that, clean the sawdust up here. But that's what we're looking for right there. That's going to go ahead and allow us to connect those together real nicely. So we're going to go ahead and drill all these now and bring it back and put this together. put our face frame together. We'll wipe off some of the glue, again, to save some sanding. And then what's going to happen, that's the top. That's going to get glued and clamped on there and screwed through our pocket holes that we already put on there. So we're going to figure out how to put this someplace where we can get at everything at once. Probably what we're going to end up doing is pulling it off the edge just a little bit so we can feel that top edge. We'll put like 4 clamps on it with some glue, and then we'll get our pocket holes in it. So probably won't get that on camera because I'm going to need more hands than just the 2 I have, and unfortunately I only have 2. So me and Sue's probably going to put the camera down and we're going to do this together. Alright, so we've gotten the cabinet all put together. Sue's putting the first coat of polyurethane on it. We'll end up doing probably 3, maybe 4 coats. We'll sand in between the coats with a probably 220, maybe 400 grit sandpaper as we go. We have the shelf for the front with the French cleat all built. We'll show you that when we get it all together, you know, once it's all finished. So we'll bring you back as the finish is getting wrapped up and show you what this thing looks like. So Sue has gotten 3 coats of poly on this. It looks really good. We're really happy with the way it came out. We're just going to give you a general overview, then we're going to put it in place, stock the shelves, and bring it back and show you, you know, what its intended use was for. So we basically put shelves for the bags, vacuum oil, spare parts, etc. Use the solid 1.5 by 3/4 inch oak frame. Everything else is 3/4 inch oak veneer plywood. We did put locking casters on it, and we found this little strip of decorative oak trim at the hardware store that we put on the sides. And then on this side, we put a French cleat on it. And the reason we did that was because this is going to live in our pantry, and we want to be able to roll it out to the kitchen when we're processing, say, 100 chickens or something like that. So this, having the ability to take this off is going to be really nice. But that just sets on that French cleat like that and gives us a workstation on the side of it. So what will end up happening is the vacmaster will sit here, and then you'll have this workstation to put stuff on and work off. And we did the same on that. We trimmed it with that 3/4 oak, any place it was a raw ridge of plywood. And then we just put a semi-gloss polyurethane on top of it. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this in the pantry, we're going to get our vacmaster on it, we're going to get our bags and stuff in it, all of our spare parts in it, and then we're going to bring it back and show you, you know, what it looks like all loaded up, ready to go, and probably even vacuum a jar of something, maybe a jar of egg powder. So hold on while we get this set up, we'll be right back.
Okay, so here is the cabinet that we built for our vacmaster vacuum sealer. It's designed so that we can roll it out into the kitchen when we need to use it for processing large batches of food. That's really important because this is incredibly heavy. It's somewhere in the 80 to 100 pound plus range. So you can't just pick it up and carry it out to the kitchen very easily. It really needs a cart that it can roll on. So that's why we did the wheels on this. And down here is the storage for all of the bags and accessories. It does have a vacuum pump that requires oil changes, so we have all that down there as well. The nice thing about it is it does use these standard food grade bags. They run about 3 cents a piece. So these shelves hold all of our bags, and we have a bunch of assorted sizes depending on what we're processing. So that's nice to have it all consolidated into the cart so we can adjust bag sizes as we go if we're doing a big processing such as chickens or a bunch of produce from the garden. It gives us a place to store the oil, and this shelf gives us a place to set the stuff that we're processing and a little extra counter space. Our kitchen is very short on counter space, so it's always nice to have a little bit of extra. So come on in closer and we'll show you how we process the eggs. Okay, so what we've done is filled our jar full of our powdered egg. And I've put the lid on, but only very, very loosely, because what this is going to do is create a vacuum inside the jar. So we just want that ring on tight enough to keep the lid from just flopping off. And we're going to set this jar in the vacuum sealer. And it's all set. I've turned off the sealing portion, so it's just going to create the vacuum within the chamber. We're going to go ahead and close this lid, and it will suck it down. And if you can see the dial, which I'm not sure you can, it's going up, and it'll go all the way up until it's green. And it'll count down through the full 30-second timer that we had set on there. And basically it's pulling the whole jar into the whole chamber into a vacuum. And then when it releases, that lid will suck down instantly on that jar super, super tight. And it'll be like a canned seal. So that's how it works. You can see the jar ring is now extremely loose. The egg is all in there, and you cannot pull this off with your fingers. You need an opener now to pull that. So that will keep this egg good for years to come, because it will keep the air from transferring in and out of the jar and therefore keep the moisture out. As long as this egg is powdery and dry, it's still good to use. So thanks for joining us on the brief explanation of the vacmaster sealer and the build of our vacmaster cabinet that we are going to use for transporting it around. We appreciate you joining us, and if you have any questions on any of this, please let us know. We'll be happy to do a follow-up video or an answer for you, and don't forget to like and subscribe.